The Oklahoma City Thunder bounce back against the Portland Trail Blazers. Isaiah Hartenstein makes his Thunder debut. Caruso has his best game in Bricktown, and more on today's show.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and beat writer for Thunder on SI, Ryland Styles. Follow me on Twitter at Ryland_Styles. Follow the show on Twitter at LO ThunderPod. On today's show, brought to you by Game Time. It's the Game Time app that you can download, create your account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. We're discussing Isaiah Hartenstein's debut, Alex Caruso's best game, Jalen Williams looks like an all-star, and more. It was a surprise debut for Isaiah Hartenstein after being ruled out for the Spurs game, and everything looked status quo on that Spurs game. So when he suffered his hand injury in Denver on the second to last preseason game, since then, he's of course been ruled out without question every single game. And that was because we were waiting on this 5 to 6 week timetable. On the second night of a back-to-back, your injury report doesn't come out until the middle of the day due to NBA rules. So in the middle of the day, the Thunder received put out news that Hartenstein was questionable. And typically in the Thunder's history, like once you get upgraded from out to questionable, it's an extremely good sign. But still, it was the definition of questionable because it felt like it could go either way. You're staring down the barrel of 4 off days. You have a pivotal West Coast trip coming up, and he ends up playing in this game that I didn't really think he would coming off of yesterday, but it was a great sign for the Thunder. And the Thunder don't win this game without Isaiah Hartenstein. Because even though he was available and had no restrictions, the Thunder did not start Isaiah Hartenstein in this contest. We can talk about that decision and have 4 days to do it, and we will get into that conversation later. But when you look at how this team started the game, they were on the wrong end of a 13-4 run. They were sloppy. They, had better effort, but not better results defensively. And it just was trending to be kind of a rinse and repeat of Tuesday night in San Antonio, a team you're thoroughly better than, but, struggled to overcome your shortcomings. But once Isaiah Hartenstein got put into this game, it was a whole new world. I mean, you could just see the difference in what Hartenstein does on both ends. So he comes in, and immediately, 2 straight offensive possessions, he creates 2 extra attempts. You didn't have a guy like that after Chet got hurt. And then you go through his other offensive possessions. The playmaking that he can provide you as a short roller, especially as you see Shai get blitzed. And this has been a trend this season. Like, as you kind of get the book out on Shai and you're putting it at the top of the scouting report as he's been for years, and you're trying to scheme up how to stop him. Teams this season have been blitzing Shai like no other. And to use Hartenstein as a safety valve, once his man comes and switches on to Shai and they kind of double team him, to throw it to Hartenstein and have him be able to make these quick decisions just opens up the floor so much for a laboring offense. And this offense was not good tonight. It was not a banner night by any stretch, but it was a world better and a lot easier than it was just a night ago. And that was because he can generate good looks. Isaiah Hartenstein is the best playmaker on this roster and the best passer on this roster. And playmaking is a special skill because Hartenstein is the very best at creating advantages. And if his teammates come through for him tonight, he could have had assists out the wazoo. He could have had 3 or 4 more hockey assists that is all set up by him making the initial read and seeing 2 steps ahead for himself and for this roster. He ends with only 3 assists, but not from a lack of trying. He also had 3 turnovers, and that was in part due to his teammates. And I think that you saw a couple of those passes, namely to Oos and to Dylan Jones, where they just weren't expecting the ball there. Like they just never would have dreamed that basketball was coming their way. And then, of course, he was at times being a little too selfless. And I think that that's just part of his mentality, as he talked about post game, of being a pass first player. But offensively, the way that he can put you in such better spots to get easier and cleaner looks is a breath of fresh air for this Thunder offense. And oh, by the way, he can also score it too with his elbow push shot, as a rim roller, put back slams, lobs from Lou Dort, which was something to behold for sure. This was just as good of a game as you could dream up. Now, granted, this is one of the easiest injuries to come back from because while it is awful to break your hand and have it be useless for most of this rehab process and it being your dominant hand, by the same token, you can still do as much conditioning as possible to stay game ready. Now, I will still give Hartenstein credit because it's one thing to do the conditioning. He talked about running 4 miles a day and doing all that in under like 35 minutes and everything else. That's all impressive. It's a whole nother thing to be NBA game ready, and he was NBA game ready, playing 28 minutes off the bench tonight for Oklahoma City. I just thought that offensively, we've talked about what he's done. The quick decisions are massive. He is able to manipulate defenses in a big way, like you saw him be able to show a pass fake to the 3-point line. The defense reacts, and so he redirects the pass to the dunker spot for an easy finish for OKC. But then defensively, Hartenstein opens the floor as well. I think that the reason that you saw a switch being flipped with Hartenstein back in this game, where you're limiting Portland inside the paint, is because Hartenstein is back there waiting. And so when Portland only turns in 32 paint points and OKC at 56, the difference is Hartenstein's lurking, and thus the ultra-talented perimeter defenders on this roster can afford to gamble again. They can afford to hound you, harass you, and be more aggressive again, as they were able to whenever Chet Holmgren was healthy. And that's why this game looked a lot closer to whenever you had Chet Holmgren, is because you can get back to your basics. I mean, you forced 22 turnovers tonight. You were competitive on the glass, only losing the rebounding battle 49-46. Dominated points in the paint, kept it close in second chance points, 18-12. And then Portland actually got the better of OKC in the fast break, which is a rarity, especially whenever you have 22 turnovers and the Thunder only had 13. But again, this was not a perfect game from the Thunder. This was not one of their best games, but it was a gritty result, and it all stems back to Isaiah Hartenstein. Like, we just went through the margins and how close things were, and that the Thunder even lost categories that they typically win. And the Thunder shot 29% from 3, and yet they still won. And that's why I don't think you win this game if you do not have Isaiah Hartenstein back in this lineup. And this is a big win because now you get to see the pictures a little bit. You've seen life with Hartenstein, who had 4 blocks in this game and was just excellent around the rim defensively. And now you've seen the pictures of what he looks to do offensively, how you can incorporate that into what the Thunder are trying to do offensively. And you have 4 days off to do it. A recovery day Thursday, a couple practices, travel day, and really gear up for what will be a pivotal West Coast trip. Like, whenever you're playing the Kings and the Lakers, and you're going to end with Houston, like, whenever you're playing these teams, it's going to go a long way in deciding how the Thunder fare without Chet Holmgren, whenever he's going to miss a large chunk of the season. Like, when this team was projected to be healthy, they were the unquestioned number 1 seed. It's going to be pretty important to see how they handle this West Coast trip in terms of what the new marker is, what the new bar for success is. Because if you run through this trip, you just feel excellent about the ability to not only stay afloat without Chet Holmgren, but achieve your goals without Chet Holmgren. If they labor a little bit, then I think that's time to do some recalibrating. So to get Hartenstein back and to be able to implement him with practices after seeing it in live action and in a regular season game is really good. And for as much as we can talk about the Thunder not having their fastball offensively, credit to Portland, who they played excellent defense, smothering defense. They switched really well. They rotated very well. They were physical. They bodied up. It was just really good stuff from Portland, who is a team that's coming off of 3 straight wins and not rolling over despite their record. So Hartenstein will continue to get praise, but Alex Caruso deserves some as well, and we'll continue talking about this game. But first, I want to say right now about our good friends over at Game Time. Go check out Game Time today because Game Time is awesome. Game Time is so awesome, in fact, that is the exclusive ticket that I use. It's the ticket app I use because, number one, they have super deals. They have last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. As a matter of fact, they're so confident that they have the lowest prices that if you somehow, which you won't, but if you somehow do find a cheaper ticket, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. That's how confident they are. I love the view from your seat option where you can get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy. If you're trying to go to a venue for a concert, maybe you've never seen that venue set up like a concert setting, you can really use that tool to see your view of the stage and see your view kind of what you're getting into. The all-in pricing is another feature I love. You toggle that feature on, and once you do, 0 surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay, which is my biggest thing I'm thankful for on this app. Go check it out today. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Go there right now. Download the Game Time app today. Game Time, create your account. Use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions do apply. Again, create your account. Redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Go download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It's game time. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. We've talked Hartenstein, and he had the finish over Blanton. He had the oop from Dort, which was spectacular, especially considering Lou Dort's playmaking history. But also, he made history in his own right, Hartenstein did, with the debut record for rebounds in a game. 14 rebounds for him, 3 assists, 4 blocks, 3 turnovers, 13 points, and a game-high plus 16. He brought a new life to this roster, and Mark summed it up well post-game. He brought energy to this team. And so I just think that whenever you see him diving on the floor, he had 8 rebounds in 10 minutes, just uber active in this one and anchoring at the rim. He was just perfect. Considering the circumstances, he was absolutely perfect in his debut. And that's what you can create with Hartenstein is you didn't even get to see an overload of like him and J-Dub playing off of one another. And when you got glimpses of it, when you got glimpses of Hartenstein's screens allowing J-Dub to play 4-on-4 or 3-on-4, depending, when you saw him be a high post table setter for J-Dub, J-Dub can just waltz into points, and that's what's going to happen for this team. I think moving forward is that he is going to create the advantages for guys like J-Dub, who is having a stellar week already. He had 30 points tonight on 57.9% shooting from the floor, 5 for 9 from 3, 3 for 3 at the free throw line, 7 boards, 8 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and J-Dub has looked every part the All-Star. And I think that you won't even really need to campaign for J-Dub to be an all-star. Like, you won't really need to beat the drum. You won't really need to go to war for a J-Dub all-star nod. If this team, with as talented as they still are with all these injuries, can win to the point where they're a top 3 seed in the West, then J-Dub will be a shoo-in for an all-star. Because to do that, right, for this team to be a top 3 seed given all the circumstances, it'll have to be nights like he's racked together over the last 2 weeks. Like, his averages since Chet's been out are jaw-dropping. It's not only all-star stuff, it's superstar stuff. And of course, don't want to crown him as a superstar yet. It's still a small sample size on the superstar numbers, but certainly not a small sample size on the all-star numbers. He had an argument last year, however weak or strong you felt it was, he had an argument. It could have been dismissed in the court of law by Perry Mason pretty easily. But this season, he will walk in to an all-star appearance if he keeps this up, and if the Thunder keep on winning. SGA in this game really struggled out of the gate in terms of shot making. He started out 0 for 2, finishes just shooting 36% from the floor, which is not good by his standards by any means, and really not good by many standards. 28 points in this one, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, and a block. I thought that while they didn't start the game as punchy as you wanted them to, when the game flow, kind of settled in, when the game was dictated in terms of how the officials are calling the game, how the pacing of the game is going, this Thunder team led by Shea and J-Dub really buckled down defensively. Now you've just got to work to find that offensive groove. And really, the work is finding role players who will step up. This is 2 straight really bad Lou Dort nights. 0 for 7 from the floor, 0 for 6 from beyond the arc. This is 2 straight nights where, you don't have that poster child as a role player outside of Alex Caruso, who we're going to talk about, and AJ Mitchell was really good. But when you go up and down, the starting 5, it was Shea, it was J-Dub, and then it's 0 for 5, it's 0 for 7 Lou Dort, it's 2 for 6 Aaron Wiggins, it's 0 for 3 Cason Wallace. You're going to need more from those guys. You had 10 minutes of nothing, frankly, from Dylan Jones, like a really bad Dylan Jones stretch. He's had one good game in his NBA career. I think that Dylan Jones should be sent to the blue, and I don't mean that as a demotion, but he's just clearly not up to NBA speed yet, which was expected. Like, that's what everyone assumed would happen. And you have one of the best defensive molders of men in the basketball world in Cam Woods, who can really get Dylan Jones cooking, I think, with the G League. So we'll see if they float him down tonight with the Blue, who play the Texas Legends again. Second straight home game against the Texas Legends coming tonight in Rio Grande Valley on Friday. But you did get a minute 19 from Adam Flagler, which technically does count as 2 minutes if Derek Parker's listening. And I thought that they used Adam Flagler in the Lindy Waters minutes to kind of end quarter. So he had a really good defensive spurt. And, it's in the first quarter, and he was kind of in there just in case that you got a shot off at the end of the third quarter, that was. But overall, it was J-Dub, it was Shea, it was Hartenstein, and it was Alex Caruso. Like that's what pulls you to a win. And even in this game, you saw Alex Caruso go out with a re-aggravated hip injury. We're going to spend the entire third segment talking Alex Caruso. So I do want to get in here right now with AJ Mitchell, who played 22 minutes, was a plus 12, and played above average defense. I don't want to overblow it, and especially not overblowing it on the first watch, being it live. I'll go back and watch the game again, as I always do, to kind of see how he fared defensively in the nitty gritty. But surface level, above average defense, 10 points, 2 steals, an assist, 4 rebounds, 2 for 3 from 3. He had some really tough rim finishes that I think are eventually for him going to translate to free throws, because while he's not getting calls right now because he's not playing in enough games, like, he's still playing a ton. He played 22 minutes tonight. He's not always on the ball, always driving. He's, I think, third right now in rim attempts. That'll continue to climb. But the reason I think that for AJ Mitchell that it'll translate to free throws, and I know that this is a hot topic in OKC, is because is the very best non-Shea player at putting his body into other bodies, of absorbing contact, of selling contact. And I think that eventually you'll see him rewarded. Of course, the rookie whistle oftentimes is not sweet, but AJ Mitchell was just awesome in this game off the bench against Portland. Coming up, though, Alex Caruso, despite the injury, had his best game as a member of the Thunder. I'll tell you why I think that was coming up. But first, I want to say right now, but our good friends over at Chime, go check out Chime today, because we've all hit a point where we realize it was time to make serious money moves. Take control of your financial success by using Chime checking account with features like no maintenance fees, fee-free overdrafts up to $200, or getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. So learn more today at chime.com/NBA. Go check it out today, because you can join millions of Chime members who are working on financial progress. Chime helps you make progress with fee-free overdrafts, again, up to $200. And to date, Chime has spotted members over $30 billion Friends give friends a boost. Eligible members get complimentary boost to temporary increase a friend's spot me limit. Go check it out today and see how it works. You set up a direct deposit in your Chime account. After a qualifying direct deposit of $200 plus, Chime will notify you to enroll in Spot Me. With an active debit card, Chime will spot you up to $200 when you exceed your balance. Your next direct deposit is applied to your negative balance. Chime never changes fees or interest for using Spot Me. Go check it out today and make sure your fall finances are a little greener by working toward your financial goals with Chime. Go check it out today by opening your account in 2 minutes at chime.com/NBA. That's chime.com/NBA. Chime. Feel like progress. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Alex Caruso had his very best game as a member of the Thunder, and many people have credited me with the success of Alex Caruso. I'm here to tell you, it's not on me. You know, I'm a humble man, and I come before you and say, don't give me credit. I'm just a public servant. I'm doing my job. I make the podcasts. I write the articles. I did put an Alex Caruso column on Wednesday, and then he goes crazy. I did talk about him on the show, and he goes crazy. Some say I motivated him. I'm just going to say I'm doing my job. Whether you want to call that heroism or not, I'm just doing my job. And if I played any part in Caruso going off, I'm just thankful to be alive. Now, to get serious, the difference in this game for Caruso, I love the way Mark phrased it of not getting drunk off the box score. Although if it's a couple Colorado Kool-Aids, I might get a little tipsy. Now, with Caruso, the reason I think this was his best game is not due to the 17 points, which is a Thunder high, in his Thunder career. It's not due to the rebound or the 2 assists or the 2 steals or the 2 offensive drawn charges. It's due to the functionality and the feng shui of Alex Caruso in this game. It's the bounce pass to a cutting J-Dub where he turns his back and adds a little sizzle to it. It's 1 for 2 from 3 without that bad miss where it's like, hitting from one side of the, he's shooting it from the left side of the break and it falls over the rim and off the right side of the rim. Like it wasn't any of that today. There was no hesitation. It was confident. It was smooth. It was decisive. He really barreled at the rim and on fast break opportunities. You even saw at times, like the reason I think that he was more comfortable, and we'll never really know this because we're not inside of Alex Caruso, is that he's way too good of a player to have as abhorrent misses as he had on open looks. Like again, missing on the opposite side of the rim stuff. Like that's not who Caruso is. He's way too good of a player to short arm layups and at times miss almost everything. That's not who Alex Caruso is. And so I think that this game, you saw him, less thinking, which actually added to his processing. Like he was just playing, man. And J-Dub and Shea talked about him after the game, and they said that you can kind of tell before the game he was more locked in, more focused. And I just think that the getting back to basics element of, hey, if you're open, shoot the ball. If you're not open, figure it out. Like the not overcomplicating it is what it felt like. And the simple fun factor of like, it just looked like he was having a great time. And it's hard to have a great time whenever you're shooting 27% from 3 as a competitor. I know that, but this was the most joy he had even before the numbers got up. Like even before he had 17 points, he played with that sizzle. I mean, that pass that he made to J-Dub on that bounce pass, he had like 6 points. Like that was not a time in which Caruso was already dominating this game. So I just think that you just saw a different demeanor from Alex Caruso than what you're used to. And this could be something that sparks him. Now, he did leave the game with what Mark called a re-aggravation of his hip injury, which we don't quite know what the hip injury was. And I only said that because it initially was announced as hip soreness. Then it was elevated to hip strain. But then Mark said that the hip strain elevation was only due to league technicalities and like league paperwork. So there was no initial change. So now we're back to hip soreness. But by the same token, I don't claim to, of course, looking at me be a professional athlete, but Can you feel hip soreness be re-aggravated? Wouldn't you only feel a strain be re-aggravated? So it's a hip issue. My favorite ever coach quote about injuries was Romeo Cornell. Whenever I believe it was Dwayne Bowe who hurt his groin, and he just simply said, Dwayne Bowe's got a little groin. I think that Caruso's got a little hip. Like, he's got a little hip injury. We'll see what it is. They have 4 days off, and spoiler alert, they will practice in that time, but we're not going to find anything out. Mark will refer us to the injury portal, and that won't come out until Sunday night. So we'll see Sunday night kind of what the outlook is for Caruso, but it's exciting stuff that he was able to turn the page. If you were ever going to re-aggravate a hip soreness issue, I would think that the 4-day layoff couldn't come at a more perfect time. So hopefully he's back for Monday against Sacramento. I appreciate you all listening. There's no good Sacramento songs, is there, huh? I always like to kind of transition to the road city in a song. What is it? What would anyone say about Sacramento? Don't they have the A's now for a brief moment until they make it big in Vegas by Buck Owens? Anyway, till tomorrow, whenever we talk to Browner Bar and get you set for the West Coast trip. Be good and be good to one another.